For those of you who have experienced fear, it might be irrational, okay? If it's to a level where it's really impacting your life, you don't want that to happen. Don't keep your fear inside of you. Let it out. Talk to people that can help you. Surround yourself with people that care about you and that can help you through any kind of situation that you're in, whether it be sickness at some time, loss of a job, something with your kids, anything that's going on. Don't keep it inside of you. Hey everyone, welcome to another Sit Down with Michael Franzese. Hope everybody is doing well. All is very good, very blessed on this end. As always, I give God all the praise, honor, glory, and thanksgiving for that. I once asked Mike Tyson, who was such a bull in the ring. I don't know if you ever saw any of Mike's fights, but when he got in the ring from the opening bell, he was after him from moment one. He didn't give him any breathing room at all. He just went at him. So I asked him an interesting question. I said, Mike, were you ever afraid when you got into the ring? Because you certainly didn't appear to be. And he said to me, Michael, I was afraid every time I stepped into the ring. And I said, really? He said, yeah. It was that fear that kind of motivated me, that kind of got me going. And I was a little surprised to hear that, but I understood it. And a couple of weeks ago, I did a video on forgiveness. And I related my experience with forgiveness and telling people how you have to first forgive yourself before you can forgive others. Because why did I respond to that? Because so many people asked me about it. Michael, how did you forgive yourself? You were in the mob. You did all of these things, How did you forgive yourself? And I spoke about that. And since then, people ask me, Michael, did you ever have real anger? You seem to be a pretty calm guy, but did you ever have real anger? Of course I did, How do you control yourself? Did you ever have a feeling of hopelessness? And the answer to that is yes. And then did you ever have fear yourself? And the answer is, of course I did. We had all of these emotions. And, for me, I experienced most of these emotions, most dramatically, I should say, when I was in that life. Obviously fear is part of the life. You make a mistake, you suffer some severe consequences, you're always kept on your guard. There's a lot to be fearful of. And not fearful in a way that makes you soft, but look, we got to be honest. I don't care who you are. You could be the toughest guy in the world, the strongest guy in the world. You're going to have fear at certain point in times. And if you don't admit to that, you're just not being honest. Hopelessness, hopefully people haven't experienced that, because people, I'll tell you this, I've experienced every emotion from ecstasy right down to grief. Hopelessness is difficult to deal with, and I experienced that. We're going to get into that in another video. And fear, of course. So I want to talk about that today in the context of how I dealt with it in my former life and how it impacted me. And for those of you out there that experience fear or are experiencing it now or don't know how to deal with it, I'm going to talk about it. Maybe it'll help you, because look, these videos are for you. I try to respond to what my viewers ask me, the questions that you ask me. I try to, give some feedback. Of course, we're going to entertain you. I know you like the mob stories, and we're going to tell you as many as we possibly can. When new things come up, of course, we're going to relate to it. We try to answer your questions. My team does go through the comments. I don't go through them all, I'll be honest with you, because between all my social media platforms, we get thousands upon thousands a week, and I just can't do it. But my team does it. They do a lot, and they try to respond for me if I can. They know how I would respond to something. And there are times when I do go on and I do make a response. I want you to know that. But please don't be insulted or feel bad if I don't. It's just very difficult to get to. But today we're going to talk about fear and how I dealt with it, how I experienced it in my former life, and even how I felt it today. Before we do that, I want to thank the people of Cleveland. So many people from Cleveland have reached out. They know I'm appearing there on June 24th in the Lorraine Theater, which is just outside of Cleveland in Lorraine, Ohio. I'm going to be there, and it's amazing. They saw a video I did. They're watching the marketing, and people from the city of Cleveland are reaching out to me, and they're helping to promote the event on their own. Some of the shopkeepers, some of the restaurant owners I want to pay him back by going there and maybe saying hello and eating in some of the restaurants. I understand it's a great little Italy. So I just want to thank you. You've been so warm and so friendly, and I appreciate all the support you've given me. And we'll see you all June 24th, Lorraine Theater. Tickets are going fast. You can jump on their website now and buy them. Also, just again, a reminder, July 22nd, it's the big deal with me and Mike Tyson. We're going to be at the James L. Knight Theater, James L. Knight Center in Miami. It's going to be a huge event, and tickets are going to go fast. They go on sale. So let's get into fear. I think I can honestly say that I've had fear many times in my life, but one of the most dramatic, one of the most pronounced fears was one night when I got walked into a room and I didn't know if I was going to walk out again. I think I've told this story, but I'll say it again. You know, in the gas business, making a lot of money, there was a story came out in one of the major publications. I think it was Newsday. Don't hold me to it, because if I'm mistaken, you guys will let me know. I think it was Newsday, and what the story basically said was that I was getting powerful enough to break away from the Colombo, start my own family. I think they said that I was making something like, I don't know, over $1 billion, which wasn't true, by the way. And it was an article that kind of got people thinking, you know, remember this in that life. My father was still a very, very strong and respected figure. He was one time the underboss. He still had a lot of respect. I'm really coming up. I was a captain at that point in time, and I had a big crew. I had the Russians that were involved with me. So we had a lot going on, and I had some good favor with some of the other families. I think I told a story about Fat Tony Salerno. You know, we got along really well. I got along well with Chin. I only met him once and briefly for a second time, but I got along well. I had a lot of friends in that life. And along with friends, when you're doing well, it's just, you know, life, you start to create some enemies. There's envy, there's this and that. Same as in the real world, you know, but maybe it's a little more dramatic, a little more pronounced in that life. So I think people on the top were getting a little bit nervous. They wanted to put me in my place. That's what I believe. My father calls me. He was on parole, and he said, we got to go see the boss. And I think I told this, so I don't want to be redundant and go over it again. That particular night, he said, I'm going to go in first, you're going to go in second, which was abnormal, because normally I drove him everywhere. He was on parole. He couldn't meet with anybody. We went everywhere together because I was protective of the people that he came in contact with, because he kept getting violated for association. I wanted to stop that, right? But he said, no, they want me to come in first. They want you to come in second, which I didn't like. But I said, okay, Dad, if that's what it is, that's what it is. And I knew there was some talk on the street. It got me a little bit concerned, but okay, we'll do it. I drive into Brooklyn at night, and another captain, Jimmy Angelina, meets me because we had to drive in one car. It was a covert meeting because the boss at that time was on parole, and obviously we couldn't be surveilled and caught because he would be violated. And my dad had to be careful too, because it was a violation when we were all getting together. So I get in the car with Jimmy, and somebody's sitting in the back seat that I recognized, but I didn't know him really well, right? And we're driving. It was probably a 15, 20-minute drive. Jimmy's making sure that nobody's following us. And as we're going there, I'm waiting for Jimmy to tell me what this was all about. But he doesn't say anything. He starts talking to me about the Yankees, and I'm a diehard Yankee fan. Didn't want to hear about the Yankees that night. You know, we finally get to the house, and people, I want to tell you this. It was a night in August. It was a summer night. It was about a 30-yard walk. I remember it distinctly, from the car to the basement apartment where we were going to meet. And I start walking down the walkway, and I'm assuming Jimmy got behind me, and that other fella got behind him. They were walking behind me. And one of the horrors of that life, people, is that you make a mistake, you get walked into a room, your best friend walks you there, you don't walk out again. And obviously, you know, in my years in that life, I'm aware of situations like that, right? So as I'm walking, I'm getting scared. I mean, I'm really scared. I said, hey, this is a bad setup. And my mind is going quickly. I'm saying, Jimmy, don't say anything to me. I'm walking into this room. I don't know what it's all about. My father went in there first. Is he still there? Is everything okay with him? I'm thinking all of these things. And I'm scared. I'll be honest with you, I'm very scared. My heart starts beating out of my chest. I didn't want to show any fear to Jimmy. I didn't want to, you know, people said, Michael, why didn't you cut and run? You know, it wasn't heroic. It was more robotic. I was such a product of that life. It was almost like I gave in. I said, well, if this is it for me, this is it. Crazy as it sounds. And I don't want you to think that this is heroic in any way. Like I said, it was robotic. When you become such a product of something. Remember that movie, Donnie Brasco? You know, in the end, when Pacino was taking off his jewelry and he's ready to walk into what he believed was a room, he wouldn't walk out again because of Donnie Brasco. Even though that part was fiction, Lefty Ruggiero didn't die that way. But same kind of feeling. That's the truth. That's one of the horrors of that life. And when I think about it, I mean, my mind, my senses get so acute, I can kind of hear the crickets chirping that night. I can see those little fireflies, the lightning bugs that we used to see in New York. I can smell the scent of the flowers. That's how scared I was. That's how fearful and frightened I was of what was going to happen. So I walked down the steps. It was a basement apartment, and I know the scenario. That door opens, guy standing on the side, boom, you get one in the top of the head, and that's it. When that door opened, people, I don't know how I didn't faint, quite honestly. And they must have saw I was scared. They accomplished that. I don't know the look on my face or whatever. I might have been shaking a little bit. I don't know. But we went in, sat down. Long story short, I'm still here. So whatever happened that night happened. And I'm here to talk about it, right? We straightened everything out because honestly, I was right. I mean, I didn't do anything wrong at that point in time. I was bringing a lot of money into the family. I don't want to get into the politics of it. But so fear, yes, that was one time. Second point in time when I was most fearful in life, the night that I violated my parole and they put me in lockdown and told first my wife, quote, your husband will never see the street again. And then they told me, you'll never be a free man again. You're going to spend the rest of your life in a 6x8 cell. Here's my little husky that we love. She likes to be in front of the camera. Don't everybody love their pets? I mean, we have such an affection. This one is so special. What she did for my daughter, you know, after we had a bit of a tragedy in our household, she was terrific. But anyway, that night too, I said, man, I'm 40-something years old. I'm going to spend the rest of my life in a 6x8 cell. Who wants to live at that point in time? So, yes, I was afraid. You know, I have fears sometimes, you know, for my children. You know, my daughter, you know, had thyroid cancer. Of course, you get fearful of that. My youngest daughter was born premature, you know, and we didn't know if she was going to make it. And, you know, praise God, you know, she's the tallest one out of all of my girls, and she's very vibrant, and she's such a blessing. She's my thank you, God, for bringing me home from prison, baby. So, but did I express or did I have fear at that point in time? Of course. You know, when people that are close to you, you know, you think that they're going to be harmed in any way, it's fear. So yes. Now, how do you overcome that? Now, I'm sure some of you here today, you know, that are watching, you've had fear in your life. You might be fearful of something right now. We're going through some very tough times. How are you going to put food on the table? You know, where's your employment going to come from? You know, those who have lost loved ones from COVID, you're fearful now anytime there's talk of a new, you know, virus or pandemic. I mean, these things put fear in your head. Everyday stuff, you know. Some people that have lost their savings in retirement, you're fearful of how you're going to go forward. I understand that, you know, and there's nothing wrong with having fear. It's a normal emotion. Matter of fact, if you say you don't have fear, you're not being honest, because everybody has it. And, you know, people, look, for me, it was all about turning to God. You know, when I was in the hole, I turned to God. When I was walking down that walkway, I said, I was praying, and at that point in time, I was not in any way a person of faith. I had gone to Catholic school, but I didn't have a relationship with God at all. But I found out something, people. When you think you're meeting your maker or you're going to be God, you pray. You know, that's when we turn to God. So, but then it was just, I didn't know what else to do. But, you know, it taught me something. When I walked away from that life, I knew that there was going to be retribution. I knew there were going to be consequences. I knew that things were going to happen. But it taught me that I can face fear, because I faced it at one point in time. So sometimes out of something bad, it builds you up for something you're going to experience in the future, and now you'll be able to handle it better because you've been through it, you've survived it, you've overcame it. So how do you overcome your fear, people? You know, you got to be determined. You got to have faith in the fact that, you know what, whatever the outcome is, it's going to be okay. And the way you arrive at that, people, is look, again, I'm not trying to be preachy at all, but I don't understand how people go through this life without belief in God, without understanding that there is something beyond this earth, that we are just passing through. So for me, it's been all about saying, okay, no matter what happens here, okay, I know that there is a better life at some point in time to come. But you can't let fear overcome you. You can't let it overtake you. I would advise you to talk to people. At one time, I'm kind of ashamed of this, and I'll admit it. I used to think psychologists and therapists, I thought it was demeaning to be, in need of therapy. I thought it was wrong. I had a bad experience at one point in time with a therapist, not me myself, but my mom, what she had gone through. But I take that back. I think therapy could be a very good thing. Talking to somebody is a very good thing. If you have fear or emotions inside of you, let it out. Speak to somebody. Speak to somebody that's been there, has done that, has gone through it, and can help you through it. You don't do these things alone. It's good to have somebody to talk to. It's good to have a community around you where people can hold you up. You can't get through these things alone, people. It's very, very, very difficult. You need guidance, you need support, you need encouragement. So for those of you who have experienced fear, it might be irrational, okay? If it's to a level where it's really impacting your life, you don't want that to happen. So, I'm encouraging you, how did I do? When I was in the hole, hey, I dove into my Bible, I dove into books, I listened to, people. I had a Sony Walkman. You young kids don't know what that is in the digital world, but I was able to listen to people on the radio. I listened to Pastor Greg Laurie, he helped me out a lot, just in some of the things that he was talking about. So the bottom line is, don't keep your fear inside of you. Let it out. Talk to people that can help you. Surround yourself with people that care about you and that can help you through any kind of situation that you're in, whether it be sickness at some time, loss of a job, something with your kids, anything that's going on. Don't keep it inside of you. Talk to somebody that you trust that can help you through it. And yes, if you need therapy and you think that could help, by all means, choose a good one and go to them and let somebody help you and support you throughout whatever, trial you're going through as it concerns fear. So, that's about it for today. I mean, I don't want to get too deep into it. I can go into this subject for a long time. I've had so many experiences in life. But the main thing, if you're in fear, or if you had fear, or you don't know how to overcome fear, it's a normal emotion. Even the toughest of people in the world have experienced it, and hopefully they've overcome it. Don't ever let it get you down. Don't ever let it put you in a position where you just can't function. So that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed it. I just want to bring up again, my friend Dominic Cicali, we spoke today. Anthony Ruggiano, we spoke. We are talking about getting together, putting a number of us together, and maybe having a round table, with all of us. So can't guarantee it, but we're talking about it. We'll see if it can happen. Of course, Sammy will be involved and a few others. So that's it for today, my friends. How do I always leave you? Same way, not going to change. Be safe. Please be safe. Be healthy, so important. And yes, God bless every one of you. I mean that sincerely from my heart. You, your families, your friends, your loved ones. God bless every one of you. And yes, I'll see you next time.